GM just made their biggest mistake yet, and this could be the end for them. They are already struggling with their sales, especially on their EVs, where they just dump cash and get nothing in return. This adds to all the things that have been making GM's reputation take hit after hit. GM's racing towards an electric future, but they might just be leaving their present in the dust. It is going to hurt them in the end. It has already started. Let me break it down for you. What is happening? Ever heard of an $86 million recall? It is insane, especially this Takata airbag fiasco. This isn't just any recall, it's the mother of all recalls, affecting millions of cars across different brands. GM's been caught up in this mess, and it's been a wild ride. Imagine it's August 2023, and GM drops a bombshell. They're recalling cars in the US and Canada. Why? Because their airbags might decide to throw a deadly confetti party in your face. We're talking about Chevy Camaros, Sonics, Volts, and Buick Veranos. All of them come with a faulty driver's front airbag inflator that could just go boom. Not exactly the kind of surprise you want on your daily commute, right? But hold on, this Takata drama isn't new. It's been the blockbuster hit of the automotive world for years. How big are we talking? Try 67 million inflators recalled in the US alone. That's more than the population of Italy. The villain in this story? Ammonium nitrate, the same stuff used in some explosives. Turns out, it's not a great idea to put that in something that's supposed to save your life. This mess has caused deaths, injuries, and even drove Takata into bankruptcy. GM's been recalling millions of cars with these ticking time bombs, and it's been a PR nightmare. What are the consequences? People don't trust them anymore. And let's even talk about their EVs. Their supposed big dream, or should we say nightmares? Just look at the Chevy Bolt. GM's answer to the EV revolution. Sounds great on paper, but it is like gold in the sky. It looks shiny, but it is not practical. And even on those models, GM's had to hit the recall button multiple times for the Bolt. And it's not because the cup holders were too small. Nope, we're talking about battery fire risks. Imagine telling tens of thousands of Bolt owners, hey, you know that expensive new car you bought? Yeah, don't park it in your garage, or near your house, or anything you like that isn't fireproof. That is more than inconvenient. These Bolt recalls haven't just been a headache for GM, they've been a full-blown migraine. We're talking major costs and a serious dent in consumer trust. After all, who wants to drive a car that might spontaneously turn into a very expensive bonfire? But here's the silver lining: these recalls, as frustrating as they are, show that automakers are eventually taking responsibility for their mistakes. It's better to deal with the hassle of a recall than to risk your safety, right? But is it good enough? Remember when GM was the cool kid on the block, churning out cars that made your neighbors green with envy? Yeah, those were the days. Back in the 80s and 90s, GM was killing it with their top-notch manufacturing and quality that would make your grandma proud. And let's talk about GM's more is more philosophy. They started offering so many models and options, which sounds great in theory, right? Wrong. It was like walking into a candy store with a toothache. All those choices led to a mess of complexity and quality issues. Sometimes, less really is more. GM. And speaking of focus, GM seems to have lost theirs. They're all over the place with their brands, models, and market segments. It's like they're trying to be everything to everyone, and we all know how that usually ends up. And you know that colleague who always points fingers when things go wrong? Well, GM became that guy. Instead of looking in the mirror when quality took a nosedive, they pointed at their workers. Talk about a motivation killer. Would you want to give 110% if your boss kept saying it was all your fault? To top it all off, GM's facing some stiff competition. We're talking about scrappy Chinese automakers and the electric wunderkind Tesla. These new kids on the block are stealing the spotlight and making GM look like yesterday's news. But they have got a plan, and we need to talk about the details. So let's. The blueprint. Ever wondered how a century-old car company plans to take on the EV golden boy, Tesla? Well, first off, let's talk about GM's big electric dreams. Barra is not just dipping her toes in the EV pool, she's doing a full cannonball. She's committed to turning GM into an all-electric automaker. That's right, folks, those gas-guzzling engines are heading for retirement. And you might be thinking, how's GM going to pull this off? They're planning to launch a whopping 30 new electric models by 2025. We're talking about everything from the beastly GMC Hummer EV to the sleek Cadillac Lyriq. And get this, they're even working on an electric crossover that'll only set you back about 30 grand. That's like getting a slice of the future for the price of a really fancy toaster. And let's talk numbers because GM's aiming to churn out 400,000 EVs by mid-2024 and a cool million by 2025. That's more cars than there are people in San Francisco. To make this happen, they're building battery plants fast in Ohio, Tennessee, and Michigan. It's like they're creating their own EV empire. But let's talk about you, the customer. Barra knows that you're not just looking for a car that goes vroom. You want something reliable that won't leave you stranded with a dead battery in the middle of nowhere. That's why GM's investing big bucks in charging networks and battery production. They're basically trying to make owning an EV as easy as owning a smartphone minus the constant software updates, hopefully. And remember how your parents told you to never team up with your enemy? Well, GM's throwing that advice out the window. In a plot twist, they've partnered up with Tesla to improve charging infrastructure. That means GM drivers will soon be able to charge up at Tesla stations. But GM's not stopping there. They're open to teaming up with other car makers too. It's like they're creating the Avengers of the auto world, joining forces to save themselves. Barra is so confident in GM's EV game plan that she thinks they can overtake Tesla in US EV sales by 2025. That's like saying you're going to out-Pizza the Hut or out-Burger the King. Bold move, Mary, especially considering how their plan has been facing lots of setbacks lately. The first downfall, ever heard of an EV that's both affordable and controversial? Enter the Chevy Bolt, GM's electric darling that's been on quite the roller coaster ride. The Bolt burst onto the scene as America's cheapest EV, promising an eco-friendly future without breaking the bank. It quickly became GM's best-selling electric vehicle, making up a whopping 95% of their EV sales. Talk about a fan favorite. People were excitedly snapping up Bolts, proudly embracing their eco-conscious rides while still keeping their wallets happy. But here's where things get spicy. Despite its popularity, GM decided to pull the plug on the Bolt. Analysts pointed out that the Bolt, while incredibly appealing on paper, simply didn't bring in the profit margins GM craved. The reality of EV production costs and competitive pricing quickly turned into a troublesome balancing act for the automaker. Plus, Bolt's journey wasn't all smooth sailing. Remember those battery fire risks we were talking about? Yeah, that led to some pretty hefty recalls, putting a dent in the Bolt's reputation. To put things into perspective, GM had to recall thousands of Bolts due to battery issues, with the situation escalating to the point where they even offered complimentary battery replacements to affected owners. But like a phoenix rising from the ashes, the Bolt bounced back, attracting new customers to the GM family. In fact, a remarkable 75% of Bolt owners were new to GM. Talk about a silver lining in a storm of controversy. But that was not enough to stop them from discontinuing the Bolt. Why? It all boils down to cold, hard cash. Even with recent price cuts boosting sales, GM was losing money on every Bolt that rolled off the lot. So, what's next for Bolt owners and fans? GM's promising an electric Equinox to fill the void. With the Equinox expected to launch with a variety of appealing features and capabilities, it aims to capture the same affordability and charm that made the Bolt a hit. But will it have that same magical touch? That's the million-dollar question. Early speculations around the Equinox suggest it may come with a slightly higher price tag, potentially alienating some of the Bolt's budget-conscious fans. But now GM's got its sights set on bigger fish. They're betting big on their next-gen EVs built on the fancy new Ultium architecture. This game-changing platform is designed to streamline production and improve efficiency, paving the way for a range of new electric models that can better compete in a rapidly evolving market. The ambitious goal? 1 million EVs in North America by 2025 with single-digit profit margins. It's clear that GM is planning a future where they can not only keep up but set the pace.